we were starting to experience some real concerning effects of climate change on the property and on the collections. Flooding in the basements that had never occurred before because of groundwater levels and the effects of storms, and then super high humidity levels were causing problems with humidity and mold in the buildings. This building holds some of our most important Hawthorne-related material, and everything was covered with mold. It was awful.
And then there was that large round of storms in Florida. A bunch of insurance companies canceled all of their policies on the East Coast, including ours. And so it really brought it into sharp relief that we had to take action.
We needed help, we really did. We really didn't know what we had, what we were dealing with, and we needed to have a plan.
That's exactly why we created the Coastal Resilience Grant Program.
CZM is we're an office within the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Our mission is to balance human use with natural resources.
The Gables was the first partner that worked on this proactive planning, this entire, comprehensive vision for the campus and the long-term adaptation of the infrastructure.
One of the things that became very obvious is that you can't keep a historic site the same when everything around it changes.
You started out talking about the change that the House of Seven Gables campus has seen and how it is a part of the Seven Gables history. And I think that really touched on something for us around how to think about the work that we knew would have to be a part of this planning process, potentially changing buildings, raising them up, moving them.
When we looked at the data we had gathered and looked at the flooding projections that were going to happen and realized that just raising buildings or dry flood proofing things was not going to work long term at all.
When we started this project with you all, I don't think any of us contemplated at the time the idea of picking up and moving this entire campus to the back parking lot. Like if we had brought that up in week one, you would have been like, you're completely crazy. You're out of your minds. Slowly, all of us through discourse and collaboration and working through it started coming both to the realization that yes, you can do this, and more importantly, you probably have to.
There were a lot of different things at play on this site with groundwater and with, the tides rising and the storms and the precipitation.
And thinking about those things and really pulling them all together and recognizing that it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution because everything is so site-specific. Where is the water coming from? It's not just the ocean.
One of the really nice outcomes was the idea around developing something like triggers that set in motion some of the steps that are outlined in that plan. And so by just trying to identify when certain things are happening in the environment or on the campus that you're noticing that is a time when you should do X.
And I think it's important to underline too that the plan isn't just a retreat, right?
Right.
What it came down to was deciding, okay, we're going to have to do this for these historic buildings, but in the meantime, we're going to come in with these drainage measures that really actually benefit the neighborhood as we reimagine the campus.
Union's design of that phased approach and the way the campus will look during that time and then eventually look at the end of it was absolutely crucial in terms of allowing us to really envision how our visitors would interact with this site as well as the neighborhood.
So many coastal communities in New England in particular, so much of the historic, economic, and cultural lifeblood is tied up in the historic centers of these towns that are invariably going to be impacted by the waterfront. And I think these kinds of projects are beginning to make other communities who haven't really thought about it yet aware of what it takes to sort of begin thinking about how they plan for the future.
It's something that the entire country needs to grapple with. How are we going to deal with these existential issues that these communities along the coast, communities along rivers, it's something that we all need to kind of reprioritize and figure out how we're going to handle this as a nation.